Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the Eternal Tournament Series, Season 3 Invitational. We are about to jump into Losers Bracket Round 7. I am, of course, Bairdrus, and once again joined by my wonderful co-host, LightsOutAce. And we are going to see Love Up, who we just watched take down his series 2-0 against Paradox on that TJP mid-range deck, facing off against Hythar, who is coming down from the winner's bracket, who is playing Big Combry. So this should be an exciting matchup, to say the least.
Yeah, and again, I think that Love Up is slightly advantaged here. He's just built a excellent deck for the field.
He really did. This TJP mid-range deck he built is quite impressive. And I have to say, I really do like his build a bit. And I do think its chances against Big Combry are actually fairly decent. I mean, you and me discussed this a little bit in the break. False Prince is just such a nasty card for people to handle most of the time. And especially against the Big Combry decks, you really don't have very good ways to answer it. In fact, really, one of your only ways to answer it is Vanquish. And Vanquish doesn't actually take care of it. It just turns it into a 1-1. So trading one of your premium removal spells in the matchup for a 5-5 to become a 1-1 is not the worst trade in the world, but certainly not the best either. You would much rather be using those on Cersos and Sandstorm Titans.
Yeah, there's a reason people play Vanquish and not Polymorph. You want to get that thing off the table.
Exactly. And, obviously, Love Up also having Obelisk in board means that leaving the 1-1 behind can often add up to some damage. So it's on Hythar to be the player to get the game far enough into the late game that he can start to out-advantage Love Up. But if Love Up can get a mildly aggressive start and lay down some very disgusting units, it will be very easy for him to, take care of this matchup. So we will see as we jump into game one between Love Up and Hythar with Love Up on the play.
Yeah, so Love Up definitely needs to redraw, just like way too many heavy influence cards and not enough power. But Hythar's opener looks pretty good here. It's a little bit slow, but it's got all the things you want: a silence, a harsh rule, some power acceleration with the Iron Thorn.
Yeah, and slow is not necessarily a detriment in this matchup. You can certainly afford to slow down against the TJP mid-range deck as long as they don't have an incredibly fast start, which we see Love Up, in fact, does not. He will have False Prince down on turn 3, which will be quite a headache for Hythar, but certainly not the end of the world in this case. Xenon Obelisks to follow on turn 4 and 5, though, could be quite devastating, especially as we see Love Up building towards that scouting party.
Yeah, if Love Up does play these two Obelisks before the scouting party, Hythar has to save his Harsh Rule. If he plays Harsh Rule before Love Up plays scouting party, he's going to lose instantly to that party.
Yeah, that scouting party will be absolutely devastating for Hythar if we don't see the Harsh Rule coming out early. And I'm curious to see if with the Seraph coming down, maybe Hythar will kind of, take this turn a little bit slower and try and slow roll into the Harsh Rule. But looks like that's not the place Hythar is trying to be as he goes ahead and just drops this Great Parliament. This will allow him to double block down the False Prince, although I think in Love Up's case here, you're pretty comfortable swinging with this False Prince here and just reestablishing another False Prince.
Yeah, the Hythar also kind of has to commit to the board and try to line up some double blocks here because he doesn't have a 5th power in hand. So when you can't guarantee that you're going to be able to Harsh Rule, it's really risky to let yourself get behind on board.
Yeah, I think Love Up actually does have a solid consideration here, though, with using a Xenon Obelisk, since it will put his Seraph in attacking range, then making it easy to trade. So a little bit of a tough choice for him here. I actually think I am in favor of establishing the Xenon Obelisk in this case, but it looks like he is going to go for the double block out of the gate and then take care of deploy another False Prince on the way back. And this is also a solid line of play here.
All right, second Harsh Rule is really nice for Hythar, but he does need to find that 5th power. I mean, he'll be able to stall for quite a while here. Like, I don't think he's in any danger of dying. It is a little bit harrowing for him.
Yeah, certainly. I don't think he's in any danger of dying right out of the gate, but Xenon obelisks are going to start to be quite frightening for him as they start rolling in. It looks like he's going to go for the Amber Acolyte play here, though, maybe. But I actually really do like dropping the Xenon Obelisk and just hitting a space. Like, you put your opponent in a situation where they're obviously going to double block you, but you're still pushing 4 damage regardless.
Yeah, I don't
looks
like trading away all of these units before you play your Obelisks. Like, Obelisk is better the more units you have in play. So if you trade away all these units and then play Obelisk, well, then, like, why are you playing Obelisk at all?
Yeah, I think he is trying to get to a board state where he can use Scouting Party, but obviously, as we've discussed, once Hythar hits 5 power, this Harsh Rule is absolutely going to clean that up. Although, if you never hit 5 power, maybe that's what kills you here. We'll see. I have to imagine Level Up is going to go ahead and A space on the following turn, depending on what is in play. If it's a Parliament token, maybe not. And yeah, we'll definitely see these Scouting Party tokens come down at this turn, I have a feeling.
Well, the problem from Level Up's perspective is that if he Scouting Parties here and then Hythar rips the power for the Harsh Rule, Level Up has nothing. He just has like these Obelisks with no units to pump.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a consideration, but I think your other alternative here is just, man, it's so hard to say. Like, I feel like if he wastes his whole turn, then you're fine, maybe. But on the other hand, like, yeah, you don't have any refuel mechanics. You really are at the mercy of your top deck. And we see here, Hythar picking up the extra power. Curious to see if the Harsh Rule will come down indeed. He's not really in a position where he honestly needs to use it anymore.
Yeah, I think he probably just plays the Iron Thorn or the... I think Iron Thorn is probably the best play here. Using the Vanquish on the 4/5 feels bad when you know your opponent has Sursos and Sandstorm Titans.
Yeah, it definitely does feel bad, although the Iron Thorn will end up getting punished due to the second Obelisk coming down. We'll see another at least 5 damage crashing through. And actually, Hythar does elect to go ahead and drop the Vanquish here, taking advantage of that.
All right, well, double powered Obelisk. So all of Level Up's units are going to be +4/+4 now.
Ooh. I think that's very curious. I mean, that's a mistake regardless. He definitely should play the power no matter what.
Yeah, could have pushed an extra point.
Yeah, just giving up a point of damage, unless he's trying to sandbag the power to try and convince his opponent that he's not holding it, which I guess is actually a somewhat valid play. It's definitely interesting to see him sandbag the power like that. We'll see if that comes back to bite him or not.
Yeah, I think that after this Harsh Rule, Hythar kind of has this game locked up. Like this, Lova would have to draw astonishingly well to get through another Harsh Rule and an Iron Thorn.
I mean, he only needs 1 big unit, and there it is off the top. I mean, this Sandstorm Titan has already created a scenario where Hythar has to, consider whether or not he actually wants to, like, Harsh Rule a single Sandstorm Titan away. And if he does, in fact, Harsh Rule away a single Sandstorm Titan, then if Love Up redraws into, any type of reload mechanic, another Sandstorm Titan, another Surso, a False Prince even, he has a ton of outs here at this point if Hythar does go for this Harsh Rule.
Yeah, and Hythar does Harsh Rule.
Yeah, I mean, Low Up certainly has some draws to claw back into this. Awakened Student is just fine in this case. Awakened Student plus a power plus another Obelisk. Like, I don't think holding Obelisk matters at this point, but maybe he's trying to, psych his opponent out, not give him perfect information. So I think that's fine here, holding it back. You don't necessarily need it right now. This Martial Iron Thorn looks like it matches up quite well, but in fact, it really doesn't. And yeah, we're going to see this... We're going to see the Desert Marshal come down to silence, but with the second Obelisk in hand, this will be large enough to tango anyway with the units on board. And I think Love Up is just going to get aggressive here and punch in like he should.
Yeah, so this a student trades with the Iron Thorn and the Marshal, so now we're on a completely nothing for both players, except that Love Up has a 6/5 and 2 Obelisks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these 2 obelisks just turn even like the most basic of Temple Scribes into a 5/5 here. And yeah, I mean, Hythar's forced to double block here, and Hythar is going to have a single Temple Scribe and possibly a solid draw here, but picking up a banner is not where he wants to be. And now this Amber Acolyte is creating a very scary threat, and a Sandstorm Titan even for Love Up to reload with as well. And I feel like you're just going to jam this here. Like, there's some consideration to respect the third Harsh Rule, but I think you're in the driver's seat here, and you need to take advantage of that, and he definitely does, jamming the Sandstorm Titan.
Jeez, a third Obelisk is just lethal here. This is crazy.
Yeah, 3 obelisks in play for Love Up. I mean, this is the power of Xenon Obelisk sometimes, is it just turns even the most basic of units, such as this 2-1 Amber Acolyte, into an absolutely disgusting 8-7 beater, and there's just absolutely no way for him to handle it. I mean, this is very, very, very powerful out of Love Up. Like, quite crazy.
I thought Hythar had it there with the Iron Thorn and all that gas in hand, but when none of your units can trade with any of your opponent's units.
Yeah, and I mean, Hythar unfortunately does go down there in the first game. Love Up going to go ahead and take a look at his sideboard and figure out what he can do, but I mean, he just navigates that matchup perfectly, and the double harsh rules end up not being enough there due to Love Up hitting some very, very solid top decks in a row. I mean, if he had hit power there, obviously that would have been a completely different game. But rolling Sandstorm Titan into Acolyte into Sandstorm Titan into Awakened Student into Acolyte there just ends up being far, far too much.
Yeah, the only thing that Hythar could have maybe done differently is instead of harsh ruling the Lone Titan, played Iron Thorn plus Desert Marshal to trade with it. But even then, you just have like a harsh rule for the next standalone threat that Love Up plays, because all of Love Up's threats are so.
Yeah, definitely with 2 obelisks activated in play. I mean, 4+4+4 to every single unit is just devastating. We see Love Up siding in an additional stand together, try and insulate himself a little bit more. Looks like he's considering pulling out a Cerso. But for the most part, I mean, his list seems to be pretty well off in this matchup. Possibly some more crystallizes if he's feeling it. Hythar, on the other hand, will likely be siding in the additional Vanquish. Looks like he pulled in a couple Dawnwalkers to help deal with some of the early game and continue recur some of these threats. Very likely we'll see.
Hythar has his own Xenon Obelisks too. Only 2 of them, but 2 can play at this team pumping game.
Yeah, certainly. He will bring those in as well, and we'll see how they pay off. He also brings in a Reality Warden just to try and create another big body. But we are jumping into game 2. Hythar on the play for this one, and has a solid hand with double Combri Healer and the Mystic Ascendant. Although Love Up on the other side of the table, Temple Scribe, False Prince, and Sandstorm Titan is looking pretty good, I have to say.
Yeah, I really like the bringing in Reality Warden here. Like, this is definitely a matchup where size matters, and nobody's bigger for his size than Reality Warden.
Absolutely. Hythar is definitely going to need to find power quickly, though, or this matchup is going to slant out of control horribly in Love Up's favor. I mean, False Prince is absolutely going to be disgusting here. Protect will be able to at least shrink it in size, so there is that advantage. But dropping a Protect just to shrink the False Prince isn't always the best, although it is a pseudo removal spell. So
just give your opponent a 1/1 with Aegis.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, sometimes you just have to do it. Cerso picked up very, very important, as this Valkyrie Enforcer is likely going to miss the Cerso and hit the Sandstorm Titan instead. And Cerso is one of those cards we haven't touched on too much, but it really is a destructive force in the Combri, in the big Combri matchup, since a lot of their units are just very, very big, and Cerso very effectively just handles big bodies on the other side of the board.
Yeah, nobody beats the Cerso in combat. Like, he just pigs everybody.
Yeah, certainly not if he is unsilenced, which unfortunately, it's very likely he is going to go unsilenced here. Interesting that Love Up did not choose to get the False Prince into play, instead making sure to hit his power on time. Ooh, and a Scouting Party picked up. This is also very nice. Vanquish from Hythar, also important, though. Going to be able to take care of the Sandstorm Titan.
Yeah, Hythar's sitting on 2 Mystic Ascendants in hand while stuck on 3. So his hand is like very, very constricted on what it can do.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see where Hythar is going to go with these next few turns. I mean, he at least has built a reasonable enough threat that's going to be very difficult for his opponent to deal with. Love Up has been sandbagging cards like Sandstorm Titan, so I'm curious to see if he's just going to hold off and drop the False Prince here. And, you know, with a Scouting Party to follow up on the next turn, this isn't a terrible idea. He'll be able to push in a lot of damage over the next few turns.
Yeah, I think that Hythar just has to hope that this 2/8 can gum up the board long enough for him to draw into power. Because if he does draw a bunch of power, his hand is very, very powerful.
Yeah, it certainly is extremely powerful if he can draw there. We're going to see Hythar go ahead and drop this Protect out now while he has the chance. Go ahead and frog one of the units and then also be able to block the 5/5 effectively. But with Scouting Party as the reload, Hythar is going to be an interesting situation. Assuming that Scouting Party is what he likes to reload with, looks like he's going to go for Surso. This is unfortunately going to get vanquished away, and Hythar picking up another power, moving himself one step closer to being able to take care of some of these. Unfortunate for him that he can't use a Valkyrie Enforcer for the time being, though.
Yeah, he's getting close to having enough.
Oh, and this is huge. Oh, Love Up, I feel like Love Up has to go for this here. He's going to have to drop the Scouting Party and just hope that there's no second Justice and a harsh roll on the other side. I mean, if you recognize your opponent's still short of Justice here, then I feel like you definitely commit to the Scouting Party, and this Crystallize is going to be absolutely massive here out of Hythar on the way back. Certainly, if Hythar drops one of these Mystic Ascendants like he will, I mean, this is going to be not only an 11-point life swing, but also 4 extra cards picked up for Love Up.
Yeah, this Mystic Ascendant, like, he's going to play it because he has another Mystic Ascendant in hand and no power anyway, but he's just going to get punished so hard by this Crystallize. Although, if Hythar starts picking up power, he can keep up with that card draw.
Yeah, he definitely can to some extent. Although the Desert Marshal silencing the first Mystic Ascendant means he needs to find a power immediately. Anything but a power here is going to put him in a bit of an awkward situation. And I mean, drawing 4 cards is no small feat here out of Love Up. This is going to be absolutely. The advantage here is going to be so huge in his favor now if these 4 cards are anything relevant. We do see him pick up quite a few power, but there is also a False Prince to reload with, as well as Amber Acolyte and Sandstorm Titan. And since these units will be stunned for another turn, I mean, Hythar just has to reload with something. Can't even play Martial Ironthorn. He's just going to have to drop this naked Mystic Ascendant, so he's still staring down a ton of damage on the backswing.
Yeah, I just missing the second Justice, missing on power. Hythar just getting out-tempoed here.
Yeah, Love Up is certainly taking advantage of the situation with the Crystallize and the Scouting Party in play, and a second Crystallize. Oh, this is absolutely huge. I mean, he can just jam a unit or 2 down in A space here, and then on the following turn still have the Crystallize to make sure that he can jam all the extra damage in. I mean, the Mystic Ascendant clearly can pick this up here, but I mean, we're at a point where this is Harsh Rule or bust, and Harsh Rule isn't going to be good enough because we don't have second Justice in Hythar's hand. It's going to need to be Justice off the top of the deck into a Harsh Rule.
Yeah, and also Hythar has to not play the Ironthorn, has to hold up the Stand Together. He's just going to die. Okay, well, he's not going to be tempted this time.
Yeah, this is unfortunate, though, because it's just... I mean, the Stand Together is at least going to be there. We'll see. I mean, he's not dead, certainly, due to the Crystallize not actually connecting. Like, Stand Together will balance this out, but there's still a ton of damage coming through that's going to connect regardless.
Yeah. So Love Up can throw away 4 units to attack for, 4 or 5 here. That's actually not that much damage.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I mean, he does force 5 and throw away 4 units, drops a Sandstorm Titan. I mean, yeah, maybe this actually isn't good enough here, but you might just have to take the opportunity. Love Up really
have to be aggressive, because otherwise the Ascendant will just get out of control and beat you.
Yeah, I mean, Love Up just needs to drop the Sandstorm Titan and find an Obelisk here. That's kind of his line of play at this point, is like finding an Obelisk, since it'll be online, and creating a board big enough to just swing past his opponent. Also, since at least one of the False Princes live, that is pretty important for him. It still leaves another giant body behind.
Yeah, so actually if he blocks 4 things, Hythar isn't even dead on board. Plus the Desert Marshal now is another blocker. Geez, still can't find second Justice, though.
Yeah, 2, 4, 5. Well, this depends. If Love Up finds Obelisk off the top here, this is lethal even with the Desert Marshal. He'll be able to force 6 damage through with the 2 unblocked units. So this really comes down to Love Up has to find Obelisk, and in the meantime, he still hasn't found it, so still giving Hythar opportunities to get back in this game. I mean, this is only game 2, so at worst, Lub Up goes down 1-1 in the series, but he certainly would like to close it out right now. He's trying to figure out his math right now. He realizes he can only force 3 damage through, so it's not worth attacking quite yet, although he's debating. He definitely does not want to do this, but I understand his consideration, though. You will absolutely lose the game if you take this line. And I think he recognizes that as well. I'm assuming that he can't ace space here for the line because he just won't have enough left. He's only going to be able to force through 3 damage and what actually amounts to 2 damage. There just won't be enough units left on the board after the fact.
Despite drawing 4 extra cards with that scouting party into Crystallize, Love Up has now drawn 3 power in a row and somehow doesn't even look like he's winning anymore.
Yeah, the stand together out of Hythar was absolutely the kicker here. If he had that, it would have just been too much. I mean, Hythar is still struggling, though, in the meantime. His Mystic Ascendant's getting out of hand, sure, and now he's got a Great Parliament, which is great. He can reload. So this will actually, that will probably seal it up for the most part for Hythar. But, I mean, if Love Up...
The Obelisk.
Yeah, now he's not dead to Obelisk at all. You are correct. Although he still does have some very awkward blocks to make, assuming Obelisk comes down. Ooh, Vanquish is important here. This is very important. This will shut down the Mystic Ascendant and shut down this card draw that Hythar has been reliant on up to this point. This also allows for...
Now Hythar can't double block the Titan or he'll die. So yeah, never mind. Not good attack still.
Yeah, still not quite. Although Hythar finally finding his extra justice, 10 power in, and his 10th one happens to be a second justice. So that's going to unlock the Valkyrie Enforcer and the Martial Ironthorn, which I have to imagine we'll see both of come down this turn. Maybe he'll be a little hesitant to play the Martial Ironthorn out, but
I think you just played the Ironthorn. You're dead to a Crystallize anyways, so you might as well just try and ultimate your Ironthorn first.
And here's an out for him. We got a Seraph. What's the activation? That is actually fairly relevant here. Wow, Copperhall Bailiff coming down, giving everything -1/-1. I mean, it's not the biggest play in the world, but it certainly does make for some interesting combat math. I don't think you want to just attack in with these two here. I don't think that's quite the right play, but because these just get double blocked down.
Only gets 1 activation. I mean, that was a pretty decent activation. It makes the attacks with these big guys pretty decent.
It makes them okay. I mean, they just trade 1 for 1 though. You double block with the 2/9 and the 2/3s into the 5/5, and you double block the Sandstorm Titan with the 3/4s, and you only lose 2 units total. You lose a 2/3 and a 3/4 for a 5/6 and a 5/5. This seems pretty decent.
Yeah, that is true. I think that it's okay for Love Up to attack here and kind of simplify the board, though, as long as he makes sure that he has enough strength on board to instantly win if he draws a Crystallize.
Yeah, and he definitely will have enough, assuming he hits Crystallize. Obelisk also still an out, possibly. I mean, he's only got 46 cards left in his deck, so 4 Obelisks in 46 cards is just over a 1 in 10, basically a 1 in 11 chance. It's very likely. We'll see, though. How did the Sandstorm... This is interesting that he was blocked this way. I wouldn't have...
Owls instead of the 2/3?
Yeah, that was very questionable block there out of Hythar, but that's okay. I mean, he at least simplifies the board somewhat. But yeah, I mean, he definitely could have left himself with the 1/3/4 Owl just to trade off the 2/3 Valkyrie Enforcer, which I think was much better. But
I don't like this attack at all. 2 damage isn't going to matter.
No, you really don't need to be chipping. You need to be on the defensive here, and losing a blocker is huge, especially when this happens. 2, 4, 6, 7. Yes, that's lethal because he swung. That is absolutely the misplay that Hythar is going to regret for the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, so is that it? Was that game 2?
Yeah, that is game 2. Love Up takes the first game in the series, and he's about to take game 2 right here. So he's going to take a 2-0 victory over Hythar due to a mid-swing on the Valkyrie Enforcer.
Yeah, I think your plan has to be to just sit back until you draw another power and ultimate an Ironthorn and just kill your opponent that way.
Yeah,
although
absolutely.
I guess staying together would have messed that plan up too.
Yeah, it would have to some extent, but I mean, Not like that. That's exactly lethal. Like one more blocker there, and you're not dead on board to stand together. Like as just an unfortunate attack out of Hythar there, and that leads Love Up to take the series 2-0. And what was absolutely a nail biter for both players there at the end of that game.
Yeah, definitely real close. A lot of back and forth in that game.
Yeah, it really could have gone either way. I mean, the Seraph activation was huge. The blocks were huge. I mean, Love Up attacking there honestly was a huge mistake on his part, and it ends up not really mattering since Hythar doesn't block effectively and then makes a questionable attack there at the end that ends up losing him the game. It's just unfortunate for Hythar certainly, but it is as it is. So Hythar dropping out as our 4th place player, and Love Up has earned himself a spot in the losers finals, where he is going to play the loser of Angry Chicken and Visarius, which is our next matchup. So we are going to take a very short break, folks. Do not go anywhere. We will be back in just a minute with that matchup.